Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to yet another episode of An Evolved Review. I am your host, James Caleb Kitchens, and I'm welcoming back to the show yet again none other than Caleb Stovall, the man who has consumed more wrestling content than anyone in the known multiverse. Welcome back, man.
What's going on, man? How you been?
Hey, I've been doing my thing. Work has been pretty crazy. Um, we've had a lot going on. It's been an interesting time. The holidays are coming up. We got a big viral pro show that's coming up. That's probably our biggest show. I'd say certainly since the start of the pandemic. Um,
Hey, so
so here we are. Uh,
speaking of a lot going on, I have to, I know we talk about wrestling and I consume more wrestling than anybody, and this is true, but
it's
I
damn
have to
true.
start this off with something different. I have to say congratulations to the Atlanta Braves are in the World Series. Not since 1999 have I been able to say that.
I haven't watched baseball on television since 1996
Mm-hmm.
when they won.
Yep.
And it's been just this kind of crazy thing because uh, you know a lot of the tried and true Braves people will call me a bandwagoner. Whatever, I'm guilty. But I have to say that being there for the playoffs and getting to kind of be in that atmosphere, that excitement of a team that's going to go into the World Series, perhaps, and now
That
we
can
know it's a
rejuvenate,
reality.
that can rejuvenate your excitement.
Yeah, I mean, it felt amazing. And then I have not missed a game of the World Series. I watched the first two. I probably will have to watch the one tomorrow on a bit of a delay. But yeah, man, I'm all about it. I actually bought YouTube TV so that I could watch it live. Which, by the
Mm,
way, I just kind of got to plug that for a second. Not a sponsor.
really?
Yeah, I got like a 5 day free trial. It's like $60 for the package for the month, but you get like every channel. I mean, it's just insane list of channels. But one thing I really loved about their Series coverage, number one, it's in 4K, it's in HDR. Like the image quality is perfect, right? But also, at any point in time, they have the stats down at the bottom. And so you can go in and look at the stats like live. And they also have, they automatically, as the game is going, they clip out every single like hit or double play or whatever. So like you can go to the bottom and like you could say, all right, I want to look at that RBI again. And you can click on it and it'll take you to that part of the video. And you can just watch it again. So you have like your own instant replay for the entire game.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so I enjoyed it so much that I had to plug it on the show. Um,
I
speaking of,
Here's the thing. I know it's good when you do that.
right, exactly, yeah,
Because you don't do that for anything unless you truly like
especially for free. If you guys, if you're watching this and you want to pay us, I'll plug whatever you want.
it.
If Candy Corn wanted to pay us to plug their product, I would say that it is the best candy, even though that shit's disgusting. Um, So I got to tell you a little story here to sort of and it's a plug slash story. So
Right.
earlier this week, I noticed that Samoa Joe was on the Kurt Angle podcast.
No, I
Um,
didn't know that you would know that at all.
yeah, and I immediately listened to it, and I messaged Ace. Last time Ace was on, I promised him that next time he came on the show, I would make sure it was something where no one died or was seriously injured or anything. Because if you run down the stuff he's covered with us, he did cover the last ride with us, but other than that, it's been the Chris Benoit episodes and the Pillman episodes.
Yes.
And so yeah, it's all been gloom and doom. So um, we talked about the episode. So we actually kind of we did a meta kind of thing. It was a podcast about a podcast. We reviewed the episode of the Kurt Angle show where he had Samoa Joe on. So that's live. You can catch that. It was just kind of a little special episode thing um, that we just kind of did on a spur of a moment. So it's out there. And I know that you like the Kurt Angle show. So I think it stands to reason that we may talk more about that in the future on this
Yeah,
project.
I do like it because a lot of the times when Conrad gets a lot of these interviews, he's always getting it from the booker, or the promoter, or even the executive producer standpoint, or even just an announcer standpoint. And I'm like, that's all well and good, but you're asking these guys about what happened in the match when they weren't out there.
Yeah.
There's, I mean, yes, they were watching the whole time, and yes, they were, helping produce it or whatnot. But at the end of the day, there were two guys that were out there, and I want to know what they were thinking. And
Right.
that's what we never hear, in my opinion. We never hear it broken down like that. And that's why I like Kurt Angle's podcast a lot, because like, actually, I'm surprised. I don't know if you've checked this one out, but I'm sure you will now. He does the breakdown of your favorite match of all time.
I know. I already listened to it.
I'm sure.
Uh, I already listened to that one. I already listened to the one about their Iron Man match. I've already listened to the episode where he talks about leaving WWE, the one where he talks about going to TNA.
Did
I've
you see
listened
the
to
one with
a
the
lot of it.
Punisher?
What's that?
Did you see the one with the Punisher?
Yeah,
John Bartholomew.
I haven't listened to that one yet. I was like, John Bernthal, what the hell?
Here's the reason why. Because he's married to his sister.
Okay, that makes sense.
Never knew that. I never would have put those two together.
Yeah, that's cool. That being said, on the episode, if you're watching this on video, we always have a little background, here that relates to the episode. Well, the image that I picked was actually the image that the Kurt Angle show put up, and so it was Kurt Angle on the left and then Samoa Joe on the right, and it kind of looked like they were on the broadcast. And
I noticed that when I saw it.
And so when Ace logs in, joins the call, I've already got it up, and he's like, "Oh my god, dude! For a second, I thought they were on the show," and I was like, "That would have been the best rib ever if I didn't tell him that they were gonna be on, and they just were on there." But then I was like, Caleb would never forgive me for the rest of his life if I just did that and he wasn't here.
Yes, I would. I'd be like, wait a minute. We had two wrestling legends, and I wasn't on this.
Yeah, exactly. So tonight we're going to talk about two things. That was a hell of a cold open. We're going to talk about two things. We're going to talk a little bit about the recent Ring of Honor news, because that is probably the biggest news in wrestling. And it has, a lot of people are happy about it. A lot of people are upset about it. A lot of people kind of don't feel either way about it. But, and I'll go into that. The reason I say that some people are happy about it, the people that are happy about it is bookers, promoters, probably AEW, maybe even Impact, people that
MLW.
Right. These guys were under contracts for Ring of Honor.
To be honest. No, I get that. I thought you were talking about fans are happy. I'm like, wait a minute, really?
I doubt that. I don't know of anybody that was just kind of rooting for their demise. They've never really done anything, for that to happen. So we're going to talk about that, and then we're going to talk about Dark Side of the Ring's coverage of XPW. So sit around, guys. This might be a long episode because I think we have plenty to say about both of those. But before we get into that, Ring of Honor, Caleb, what was your initial reaction when you heard about it?
I had mixed feelings about it because when I read it, I was like, oh shit. And then it was also followed by, but I'm not surprised.
So for
because I'm a Ring of Honor fan.
Right.
And I'm not watching Ring of Honor.
Right. So for those who may not know at home, if you're watching this, Ring of Honor, if you're like, what are they talking about? Ring of Honor just this week announced that they're releasing everyone from their contracts. They're taking the rest of the year off, and that they plan to return in, I think, is it April?
That March? Is the goal.
Yeah, so they want to.
I understand, but I don't know if that's going to happen.
Yeah, they want to return around the end of Q1. There's a lot of people that are saying they don't think it's going to happen. Let me ask you, man. In a world where we have AEW on television every week, what purpose does Ring of Honor serve?
It doesn't because I mean, literally, AEW could be Ring of Honor. If like AEW was literally started off the back of Ring of Honor. Ring of Honor created well, no, not Ring of Honor created, but Ring of Honor helped the popularity of Cody and the Bucks. They also helped with All In, or not all, or is yes, All In. Um, the original, you know, I guess first AEW pay per view, even though technically it's not AEW or anything like that. But um, yeah, and Ring of Honor never really got anything from it, you know. And I've always said this about Ring of Honor. I said, look, the problem with Ring of Honor is they've had some of the greatest storylines ever that have never been seen, have never been talked about. Or if the people had, or if the people were in the audience, they weren't going home and talking about Ring of Honor. They might have been talking about certain people that performed on that show, but they never went home raving about Ring of Honor. I'll
Yeah,
never understand why, but that's just the way it was.
I think a lot of it is like the presentation. I mean, um, when we originally started covering the 2020 Pure Tournament for Ring of Honor, I mean, to this day, those are the lowest rated episodes of our podcast. I mean, the least amount of people watch those by a wide margin. I mean, I think the some of those episodes have like less than 10 listens today.
Yeah.
After and then that was almost a year ago that they were out. So yeah, I mean, they've always kind of failed to generate a significant interest. And I don't know if it's something about the branding, about the presentation. I don't really know what it is because a lot of other people, I mean, you look at like MLW, I'd say MLW is wildly more popular than Ring of Honor right now. You look at, I mean, AEW obviously, but I mean, I think when Ring of Honor comes back, I think they're just going to be a top class indie show. I don't think they're gonna be doing all this stuff where they're trying to be a national promotion. I think that time has come and gone. I think the golden era of Ring of Honor has come and gone, where you had
Yeah.
people, like Joe there, CM Punk. I mean, the greatest of the greats in our business today came up through Ring of Honor. I mean, especially during the Cornette era. But I mean, that's the thing is with NXT being there, even though it's the bastardized NXT that nobody cares about, but like to say with all the wrestling that's out right now, to look at NXT and go, nobody cares about that. If I can't be made to care about NXT, how am I supposed to care about Ring of Honor?
That's a good point, and I mean, I don't know, man, because it's funny because I keep saying this, and when I say this, I truly mean this. But you knowing me when it comes to wrestling shows, like when I went to the Ring of Honor show in 2018, or was it 2019? No, I'm sorry, it was 2019. When I went in 2019 to the ROH show at Center Stage in Atlanta, Georgia. Currently, I live here in Atlanta now, but when I went there, I thought it was one of the best wrestling shows that I had seen in years. I mean, I will put that up with when I saw Monday Night Nitro in '95. As one of the best shows. That's how good I thought the show was, or I thought it was overall. I thought there was a lot of energy in the crowd, but here was the problem. And then I look back on it is again, it's there's a bunch of good stuff here, but what does it all mean?
Right.
Kind of like there just wasn't. I mean, there was an attempt to start a faction storyline that went nowhere whatsoever. In fact, all it did was just make Bandito popular. Um, like I just said, because when I said it just a couple of weeks ago, MLW right now, if you look at MLW, all right, they're still around and they're profiting because one, they're able to keep talent under contract. Two, they just signed a deal with Vice to go on right after Dark Side of the Ring, too. So, they're doing really well on that part. And they've got interesting storylines. They've got stuff to follow there. The Contra unit's one of the best things I've seen. I don't know if anyone's been following that, but if you haven't, you need to go back and watch that because it's some good stuff. And they've got Alex Hammerstone is killing it as well, and a lot of other stuff. So MLW has stuff to follow. The NWA as well. NWA has been putting on a good show, I think, ever since they launched the YouTube show back in 2019. Oh, I'm sorry, 2019, I think. AEW, again, you have a lot to follow there. New Japan, you have stuff to follow. Impact Wrestling, while confusing at times, still has stuff to follow there. There's still some interesting stuff. Ring of Honor, there's just nothing. There's no big stars. They can try to make big stars, but it seems like everything that they do is nothing. And I thought that they focused way too much on Roosh. I mean, he was good, but they focused way too much on him. Like way too much.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't turned on Impact in a minute, so I couldn't really I think the last time I watched Impact, it was Tessa Blanchard fighting with what's his name with with like a baseball bat or some nonsense, and I was just like, this is terrible. Any program with Tessa Blanchard on it, I'm immediately turning that shit off. So
I guess you're not gonna watch WoW.
No. No.
I'm gonna watch it just because I want to see it, and AJ Lee is probably gonna be on it.
Well, Tessa won't be there long. She'll get herself kicked out of that locker room.
Probably. Well, then that's okay. You'll watch it afterwards.
Right. But in terms of Ring of Honor, man, they're releasing everybody from their contracts. There's a ton of people in the Ring of Honor contract that, I'm sure that AEW would love to get, that a lot of people in the Indies would love to get, MLW, hell, maybe even NXT. I mean, first off,
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Game Changer Wrestling just signed Bandito.
Yeah, I mean that doesn't shock me. But I mean, Ian Riccaboni, Caprice Coleman, to me, other than AEW, I think they have the best announced team right now. Just because Morrow's not doing anything.
No, he is doing stuff, just not in wrestling.
Right. And then the roster, Hot Sauce Tracy Williams, I'm a huge fan.
Yes.
Jay Lethal, AEW could absolutely use him. Jonathan Gresham. I don't know if AEW's audience would love Jonathan Gresham, but if you think about it from the standpoint of, is there a submission specialist in AEW? I can't name one. Off the top of my head, so that kind of style is definitely something that, could be warranted. There's just a large group of people over there that, people would very much like to see. You got up and coming people, like Josh Woods. I was very impressed with him. There's a lot, man. There's a wealth of talent over there that the wrestling world could use, and I think that we will see some of them go up, some of them will come down. Hell, if you want to talk about people AEW could really use, the Briscoes.
That was when I knew Ring of Honor was in trouble, was when I saw the Briscoes doing more Game Changer wrestling.
The Briscoes, Dalton fucking Castle would be amazing anywhere.
I think one of the places that's really going to benefit from this, two places actually, MLW and NWA.
MLW should get Danhausen immediately.
Yes.
Shane Taylor, NWA. Shane Taylor could go anywhere. Shane Taylor could go anywhere.
Yes, he is amazing. And PCO,
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, I
he's
mean,
still going, so I mean, he could go anywhere.
yeah, I mean, there's just a wealth of talent, man, and I definitely want to see, I definitely want to see Tracy Williams somewhere. So we'll see how it goes. I hope Ring of Honor comes back just because, it is nice to have another place for the guys to work, but it's like, to me, I don't think Ring of Honor going forward is big enough to keep people under exclusive contracts. I
Well,
just don't think they are.
and it doesn't sound like they're going to try.
Right.
Apparently, it sounds like they're going to be what they were when they first started, which was a completely indie company.
Yeah, and I mean, they can't have made any money in the last 2 years.
No, they didn't. And now, you do have to give them credit at least for trying to pay the talent.
Absolutely, man. I mean, we made a huge effort to get our talent paid at Viral when the pandemic struck, and it was hard. We really, it was like, okay, we're canceling all these shows. They kept a lot of their talent working, and they kept them in a safe environment. I never heard of any like COVID outbreaks at Ring of Honor or anything like that. So huge kudos to them for that. But at the end of the day, my kudos won't pay their bills, right? So that's problematic. But
Yeah.
it is what it is. I hope they come back. I hope there's a nice place for the talent to work, and maybe they can get some of these guys back on a semi-permanent basis. But there's also the fact that there's a lot of guys, like I said, tied up in Ring of Honor contracts that would be doing really well elsewhere. I mean, hell, Caprice Coleman get back in the ring. He's AML's champion right now. If you haven't checked out AML Wrestling in North Carolina, I'd say probably the best wrestling in that state. No, ifs, ands, or buts about it. They put on WrestleCade every year to the tune of like 10,000 plus fans. I'm going to be there this year. Sting is going to be there. We're staying in the same hotel, which I'm very excited about. So, yeah, man, I just think that I think there's a lot of places that I think this is ultimately good for the talent. Are some of them going to end up on the indies? Sure, but that's just how it goes.
Yeah, I mean, it is what it is. But I do hope Ring of Honor returns, because there's a lot of good Ring of Honor footage still to this day that I haven't even seen myself. And me, who consumes more wrestling than anybody, I haven't seen it all, because it's hard to watch a lot of it too, because a lot of it's terrible quality. It just is.
Yeah.
Um, but I've seen some of the best matches though in Ring of Honor. I mean, you can't deny its history. From what I consider my favorite match of all time, which is Bryan Danielson versus Nigel Mcginnis. I still think that's the greatest match I've ever seen in my life. And then Samoa Joe's matches, there's so many of them. I've lost track, and they all happen in Ring of Honor. AJ Styles had some classic matches. CM Punk obviously would not be CM Punk if it wasn't for Ring of Honor and the feud that he had with Raven. Bryan Danielson's world title run that made everyone go, wait, that's what a champion should be. That's what a title run should be. Him and Samoa Joe's runs to me were like, okay, this is what world champion runs should be like. When did we stop doing runs like these kind of thing? Tyler Black, who is now Seth Rollins, obviously did great things in Ring of Honor. Davey Richards, the American Wolves, all the great tag teams that came through there. Obviously the Bucks and Cody. I mean, you could say what you want to about them now, but in Ring of Honor, man, they were amazing. They fit with the product. It worked and everything like that. They did great. And obviously the Briscoes, Jim Cornette and stuff like that. Just so much history in Ring of Honor that a lot of people just haven't seen and they don't realize happened. And if they saw it, they'd be like, wow, this is amazing. But who knows what's going to happen. I wish them all the best of luck. But I do hope a lot of this talent goes to MLW or NWA or, yes, even AEW. But I don't want them all just to go to AEW. I'd love for them to go to MLW because right now, dude, I think that's the one that's really a sleeper right now is MLW and the NWA for that matter. Like, I just really think those two are really good. And Game Changer Wrestling is doing some good things. You know, you could say what you want to about the death matches or whatnot, but at the end of the day, Game Changer Wrestling is selling out venues, man.
Yeah, I mean, it's not my cup of tea, but obviously there's a pretty decent following for it. So, hey, they might. I mean, they've got enough money to pay Dean Ambrose, so it is what it is.
It
Um,
is.
so I think it'll be very interesting. I definitely want to see where talent goes, and I agree with you. AEW right now has almost a WCW 97, 98 problem where there's too many people. There's like 10 factions. Um, the booking they're doing is good, but it's just like at the end of the day, it's like you've got to solve some of these problems, and some of those solutions need to be releasing talent. Um, and there's a long line of people. I mean, I could sit here right now and name 20 people I'd release.
I know
Um,
you could.
and then there's another 20 people that I would release because I can't tell you what their names are. Um, so yeah, I mean, but hey, I'm not Tony Khan. It's not my business. I'm not paying them. So that being said, let's get into this XPW episode, man. I gotta eat crow again because this is another one where you were like, this was on our list. This was one of the ones you put on the list. I was like, they're not gonna fucking do XPW. I mean, FMW. I was like, they probably won't. But like, I know that there was a story there. The Hayabusa stuff, like all that stuff is kind of like wrestling legacy. But with this one, I really thought they wouldn't do it because at the end of the episode, and I have to pay tribute here. This episode is dedicated to Jerome Young, aka New Jack. So I wanted to bring that up, but it's like New Jack says at the end of the episode. The only thing that they ever did that was of any note was him throwing Vic Grimes off the scaffold, and Dark Side of the Ring has already covered that in the New Jack episode. So that was kind of why I thought they wouldn't talk about this, but I really did not know the wealth of the like behind the scenes shit that was going on that makes this such a good Dark Side of the Ring episode.
Yeah. Well, let me put it this way before we get started. At times, there are stuff I wish I did not know.
Right.
And there's just some things in this episode that it was just like, God damn it, I wish I just did not I wish I didn't know that. Because look, I I'm the only one that can stomach watching WCW 2000. All right? But I would watch that over XPW any day of the week.
Yeah.
I will never watch an XPW show ever again.
Yeah, I mean, this place, um, you know, it would be easy because, one thing I really like about Dark Side of the Ring, and you could say what you want about like some of the episodes. I mean, I don't want to go into it yet again. Plane Ride from Hell. A lot of people have said that was creative editing, but it really wasn't. It was just the fact that Tommy Dreamer had no idea that the flight attendant was going to be so charismatic and that people were going to feel so heavily for her, and he didn't see her interview. But he still said what he said, and fuck him. But in this, it's kind of like there's no way that this is slanted against Rob Black, right? Like they interview everybody. They interview some of his porn stars. They interview the wrestlers. They interview the guy that did the editing for him. They interview the guy that was a live event producer. They interview people like Sabu and New Jack. I mean, they interview the merch girl. They interview everybody, and pretty much everybody is like, Rob Black was a huge piece of dog shit.
Yes, they did, and that was definitely something I got throughout everyone. And they even started off in the episode. They're like, "Are you surprised Rob Black is not here in this interview?" And they're like, "No."
Yeah, I mean that was what let you know we were in for a ride at the beginning of this one.
Yes,
When they're
yes,
like, "Are you surprised he doesn't want to be in it?" And Messiah's like, "No, not really. It's a no-win situation for him."
yeah. Oh my God, the story with him.
Yeah, I never saw that shit coming, dude. This
Nope.
this this shit got so crazy. I was almost sad that I wasn't watching it, back then. Um, but I would have.
Trust me, it's not okay. Let me let me just give you a preview of what they're announcing sounds like. You heard some of it, but you didn't get to hear the good, the like really good parts. All right, you know Joey Styles, infamous. Oh my God! You
Yeah,
know when something would happen, but Joey Styles is amazing, and we all love Joey Styles and stuff like that. JR's, oh my God Almighty, he killed him, all that. This was XPW's announcer when something would happen. He would go, oh no, he's gonna, ah! He was, and then their color announcer sounded like he was a drunk former soccer announcer trying to cover wrestling. He was like, if you see this, he just threw him off the thing and blah. I was like, what the fuck is going on?
yeah, that would drive me bonkers, dude.
It was terrible. Everything about it was fucking atrocious. I can't name you one good match in XPW. Not one. I cannot name you one. I can name you people who were in matches, but I can't name you a match that was actually good.
Yeah, I mean, it just seems like some really like 2020 style backyard wrestling, but just in a venue,
Yeah,
with
like
people.
let me put it this way. Game Changer Wrestling is safe compared to this.
Yeah, man. I mean, some of this stuff was just insane. I mean, you know, they kind of start this with sort of a introspective into the. It's really a character study of Rob Black. They talk about him being in the adult film business, him dating Lizzie Borden, who, you know, he kind of, I guess, like she was a porn actress, and then they got together, and then he didn't want her to perform anymore.
She
Uh,
was.
and then he was kind of like showing her off and wanted her to like flirt with guys so that they'd want to be with her, but then he didn't want her to do that, and that was kind of weird right off the bat. This guy did a bunch of really ballsy shit. I mean, he we find out later in the episode he challenged John Ashcroft, who was the Attorney General of the United States at that time, find a reason to come after me. And I was just like, this
Um,
isn't a wrestling promo, dude. This guy has power.
yeah, and he when he was like, find something on me. I was like, well, they did.
I, so, what really kicks off XPW here, what we find out is that it's ultimately their relationship with ECW. So Paul Heyman had got in touch with Rob because he wanted to get on the West Coast market, which it's weird to think about it today, but back then a lot of the national promotions weren't really national. One of the reasons that Vince was able to dominate the way that he did is because he was on TV in every market. I
Mhm.
mean, early in WCW's life, they weren't on TV in every market. It took a little while. And, just back then it was like, well, if I don't get ECW in my state, then I don't know anything about it because the internet wasn't a big deal yet.
Yeah.
And you certainly weren't. I mean, back then you certainly weren't getting on the internet to watch live video streams like that. Just, I mean, that would have been a nightmare experience. You might as well have somebody take photos and mail them to you.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
it would have been terrible.
yeah. So you know, eh, so Paul Heyman is trying to use Rob Black's connections to sort of get on the air in the West Coast. Once they get on a national network, then they kind of cut the relationship off with him. And I'm assuming that Paul Heyman probably was just like, "Hey, man, look, we're not going to need to do that deal anymore because we're on a national, television program now, which no one would ever turn down." And Rob Black, of course, took it super personally, and so he decides that XPW is going to essentially go to war, I guess, against ECW, and then that's how we get this whole ordeal.
Yeah, I can tell you that was not like the Monday Night Wars.
No, it didn't seem anything like that.
Like it was as as the Messiah, who by the way is the star of this fucking episode. I love the Messiah, by
I
the
was
way.
going to bring that up. He seems very well put together to have been wrestling at this place.
I know, right? But he played such a fucked up character too. Like it was, it was the Messiah. I mean, he wanted Rob Black wanted him to be called Jesus Christ, and I remember seeing that when I saw stuff from XPW. I was like, holy shit, what is wrong with this place?
What's crazy is he doesn't look like Jesus or anything.
No, no, not whatsoever. But yeah, to put it mildly, what that war was, Messiah said it best. This was stupid.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, he was great. I also loved New Jack. I was so pleased that they got this interview with him before he passed away. That was incredible. I mean, I was not expecting there to be more New Jack footage, and so I really, really loved that. That's what we got. Um,
Yes.
so uh, it, he was so funny in all his parts, especially when they have him on the forklift, like going through the warehouse getting the porn DVDs, and he's like,
Yeah.
I had over 1,000 DVDs."
I had about 1,000 DVD. He's like, yeah. I wanted to wrestle. I want to get some porn.
Yeah, I mean, that whole thing is hilarious. I love when they ask him too. If Paul Heyman was upset about him working there, and he's like, I don't give a fuck. I gotta eat, you know,
Yeah, I gotta get some porn.
and I gotta get some porn.
I was like, yes. I love New Jack for that. Now, I knew Rob Black had to know something about that scaffold, though.
Right. I mean, for sure. Um, that
But
that
you were saying about ECW.
Yeah, I mean, so we'll definitely get into the scaffold match because, as we said, it is the most memorable thing that they are known for, as far as like just what was in front of the camera anyway. I
Yeah.
wanted to, yeah, I want to highlight. We're introduced to Jessica Darlin early in the episode,
Uh-huh.
and she was one of the like porn actresses that Rob just kind of said, "Hey, you're a wrestling valet now."
Yes.
Okay. And she is kind of our non wrestling person view into all this, right? So, she's talking about how like the wrestlers would come in and there'd be people filming sex scenes in the front, the ring set up in the back. I mean, Rob Black was a busy man, if nothing else. Uh,
Hmm.
and I really like that they got her for this. When you first watch it, you're kind of like, okay, what is she going to contribute to this? But I mean, I thought that she had a great perspective on everything as being like not a person from the wrestling industry.
Yes. I did too. I enjoyed her interview in this.
Um, what do you think about we get to hear from David Marquez. He was the editor, and this guy's like an Emmy-winning like producer, right? And
He's
he's
in the
going,
NWA currently.
yeah, and he's going to work for XPW. I guess a dollar's a dollar. What did you think about his situation?
I just loved his reaction when he was just laughing and stuff like that. Um, I mean, he's like, hey, I want to do wrestling, but I got to pay the bills. So in order to get paid, he had to do what he had to do.
Yeah,
I mean, dude, it was a different time back then. You had to do what you had to do. There weren't many wrestling options.
yeah. That's true. If you weren't on one of the big national shows, you had to do what you had to do, and that's kind of most of XPW. Okay, so the relationship with ECW goes really bad, um, you know, to say the least. So they decide that they're going to kind of go to war with them. Rob takes this really personally. So they told a story about, Paul Heyman decides he's going to do a LA show for ECW.
Yep.
And Rob kind of sends his, according to the roster, they all kind of admit that they were kind of brainwashed by him. He was almost a cult leader type figure.
Yeah.
So they go to kind of disrupt the ECW show, and they sent the ring crew and everybody. So the ring crew is out papering the parking lot with XPW flyers, and then the actual roster is inside. And I love that Messiah brought up here that Rob was supposed to be there with them and no shows.
Yeah. Like, okay. Because you know what? You can say what you want to about Paul Heyman. If ECW back then had done a storm anywhere, he would have been there.
Oh, absolutely. He'd have been leading the damn charge.
Exactly. He'd have been, like I said, because first of all, I love Paul Heyman still to this day.
Well, this guy knew, though, who was going to be there, and he wasn't about to get his ass beat by New Jack for real. So,
That's
you know.
what it seems like. I mean, it was so stupid. And here's the thing: you can't even see them on camera. Like you might see it for a second or two, like when you watch the actual pay per view, but they're not even really acknowledged. You can see that there's somewhat of a disruption in the crowd, but I mean, nothing that came of it. The only thing that happened was the ring crew, not the actual wrestlers, but the ring crew got the shit beat out of them, and nothing happened from this. Like, no war happened. The fans did not care. Nothing.
Right.
Pointless.
Yeah. Yeah. And all that happened was like security just kind of escorted them out, which is kind of like, this is kind of the ultimate defeat for them because the whole idea of doing something like this is you want to create a stir, you want to create a buzz, but it really didn't happen. I mean, ECW just kind of went along as they were going, and they were just not even a bump on the road. And of course, Rob wasn't there. And this is, I think, when Messiah kind of starts to see the cracks and everything, where he's like, wait a minute, Rob was supposed to be here with us on this crusade or whatever that he's leading us on. Um, so let's
Before
talk.
we go any further, remember when I said that this story was like Herb Abrams, only dark as fuck?
You did say that, and
Was
here
I
we are.
not?
Yeah, that's actually what I want to talk about next. Let's talk about the way some of the talent was treated. Um,
Mhm.
Luke Hawks does a 450 onto a table that's covered in glass and barbed wire.
Yeah.
And he says immediately the next thing is, how are you going to top it? Rob constantly wants to know what they're going to do to go even further than that. He tells a story about, earlier in the episode, Messiah says that Rob originally kind of put him in as like Mr. XPW. He was kind of a main event guy purely because Rob saw him take a chair shot and didn't put his hands up. And he loved it. And apparently Rob was very against people putting their hands up on chair shots because Luke Hawks also tells a story where he put his hands up and they showed the chair shot. The chair shot he was upset about looked fantastic. It looks better than basically any chair shot in the WWE in the last probably couple years, right? Um, but he put his hands up, so Rob hated that. So the next show, he has Supreme, who is Chaos, Joey Munoz, his uncle,
Yeah.
um, who was basically a legend of deathmatch wrestling. He had Supreme. They kind of had him in like a crucifix type pose there. They had his arms chained up, and they basically had Supreme hit him over the head with a chair over and over again. Probably cracked his skull, gave him a concussion. Rob Black doesn't give a single shit. He thought it was justified.
Yeah. This is where, like, as I am watching the episode, I'm like, this isn't even halfway in, and I'm ready to kill this motherfucker.
Yeah, I mean, just like anybody treating their talent like this at any point in time is despicable. But I mean,
deserve to be anywhere near the wrestling business.
Yeah, I mean, if this was happening today, it would be just absolutely just madness. If it was happening today. But not that it's justified at any point in time. But I mean, this place would have been shut the fuck down well before it got to this point.
Yeah.
So,
and I mean, Jerry Lynn told Luke Hawx that, like, hey man, your chair shot looked great. Fuck him. He doesn't know what he's talking about. You did what you were supposed to do. And when Jerry Lynn, an actual veteran of the ring, tells you, hey, you did good, don't listen to some idiot.
Right. Absolutely.
I'm sorry. You can tell that I'm starting to get hot about this because this stuff really pisses me off.
Yeah, I mean, it should. It should.
This is stuff I can actually get pissed about.
My thing too, I had to talk to somebody about this recently, is, in my opinion, the very first job of a booker or a promoter is to make sure that their talent has a safe environment to work in.
Yes.
And anybody who can't get it with that program should get the fuck out of the wrestling business.
Yes.
Forever. Go work at a grocery store or fucking a Sonic or whatever. Speaking of, so they talked to, and it wasn't just the wrestlers that were treated like shit. They talked to Mike Hartsfield, who was his producer, and said that there were nights where he slept in the ring at the office, that he would put in like a 12-hour day, and then sometimes he would put in 16 to 20 hours.
Yeah, because Rob Black, I don't know if you know this, wrestling has to be edited.
Right. Not only that, man, he talks about committing, like, just straight up, I guess the statute of limitations is gone on this. He straight up, at Rob Black's direction, committed insurance fraud.
Yes, at the night of the scaffold event.
Yeah, and it sounded like that wasn't the only time he did it. It sounded like this was just a regular thing where he's just like, yeah, I just went on the internet and found one and edited a little bit and printed it out and sent it in. They were like, great.
I love the way that they shot this, by the way. I have to give credit to Evan Husney and Jason Ivey, I think is his last. I can't remember exactly.
Sure, it is now.
Okay. Well, I know it's Evan and Jason of Dark Side of the Ring. I have to give them credit for this one because when he just kind of like was just like, yeah, so basically like I just faxed over a thing and did this for the insurance. And then they just go, so wait a minute. This wasn't even insured. I was like, damn, that was brilliant. And I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised whatsoever because, dude, what arena is going to sign off on a scaffold match and a buck naked match? You can't just book that and think that an arena is going to actually want that.
Right.
Like, here's the thing. Sometimes some people wonder, like, why does WWE make last minute changes? Sometimes it's because they go up to the arenas and say, hey, this is what we're going to do. And the arenas are like,
right.
Not in our arena.
Yeah. Yeah, that does happen.
I mean, you've even experienced this.
We have, yeah, several times. There's been several times where we have had to kind of run something by a venue and they didn't want to do it for whatever reason. Almost any venue you operate in now, you have to have at least $1 million worth of insurance, because anything could happen, and gyms and armories and places like that aren't trying to get their floor messed up by a ring. People don't understand how much weight a wrestling ring has on it, and it's steel sliding around possibly on your floor. You know, um,
Yeah.
so yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things to consider there. Um, let's talk about some of the crazy, just shit that happened here.
What?
It didn't quite get FMW bad as far as like the types of matches. I mean, the scaffold is madness, right?
No,
But
I have to actually correct you on that. They might not have been able to go through all of the crazy stuff, but I'm telling you right now, some of that shit is crazy.
oh, I mean, I'm not saying it isn't. But
Oh, okay.
FMW getting like doing the Inferno match, for instance. This didn't get quite that crazy, but they do tell the story about Supreme with the charcoal fluid. Now, what's interesting about this is about 6 years later, I actually witnessed something that was almost incredibly identical to this. Um, so in the episode, they talk about how they got charcoal fluid instead of lighter fluid, and it'd be very easy to say the same thing. The charcoal fluid's oil based, and so they're trying to light it, and it's not alcohol based, so it's not giving that nice whoosh kind of flame effect that you want to look good. And they're trying to get this to happen, and it doesn't. And so they go through with the spot, and the fluid immediately latches onto Supreme's shirt, which ignites and melts to his skin. Um, I saw a very similar episode at a backyard show where they got I think it was kerosene
Oh
instead
god.
of lighter fluid, and they kind of were doing the same thing. They were putting it on the table, putting it on the table, putting it on the table, and they couldn't get it to stay lit. So finally, they just put a bunch on there, and it had soaked into the table by this point. So they light it, and I mean, this thing is a flame. They go through it, and the stuff immediately it's just like this, gets in the guy's clothes. And I mean, the guy got burned pretty bad.
Ugh.
Um, yeah. So if you don't know what you're doing with this sort of stuff, I mean, this is what you got to remember. Wrestling has always been smoke and mirrors. It takes skill to pull off the idea that you're really harming the other person without harming them.
Exactly. That's the art in
Right.
pro wrestling.
Right. And even in a death match, it's still supposed to be rigged, right? Everything's still supposed to be a work, except for, obviously, like, thumbtacks, but a lot of times you'll have clipped thumbtacks. Barbed wire, I mean, a lot of places have clipped their barbed wire, so that it's not as damaging. I mean, there's just all this stuff, gimmicked tables, ladders, and it's just when you start doing stuff like this with people who don't know what they're doing, it's severely dangerous. It's
Uh-huh.
dangerous when everybody knows what they're doing.
Yeah.
100%. I mean, just two people having a regular wrestling match that are fully trained. How many times have we seen career-ending injuries in just that? Countless times.
Yeah. I
And
mean,
you're
Hayabusa got paralyzed just from slipping on the rope.
right in a regular ass match. It's
A guy died in a match, and he didn't even do a move that was that spectacular.
right. I mean,
It just something happened. Something clipped wrong on like his back or something like that, or he got hit in the head too hard. I don't know. You know, just stuff happens. And then when you add in this element, like you said, this is a recipe for disaster, and it was.
right.
Dude, I'm telling you, I saw the great Terry Funk, who was amazing on the FMW episode and is amazing overall. But I saw him wrestle a match in XPW against Shane Douglas at the ECW arena. Now, this was obviously when ECW died, but
Right.
I saw a match. Terry Funk has a muscle hanging from him. You can see the muscle hanging from him, and no one thinks, hey, maybe we should stop this. Maybe we should check on him. Maybe there should be a doctor come out and check him. No.
It's insane, man. Just the amount of shit that Rob Black managed to get away with, and I just is unbelievable. Um, so that being said, we all know ECW went under. So after
Mhm.
ECW goes under, they start bringing in all these big national and even international stars.
Terry Funk.
Sabu, I am continuously shocked when Sabu is on Dark Side of the Ring and he is both not being exposed in the episode and still alive. Like it's happened twice now, and it's just mind blowing to me every time. Um, but he said basically, Rob Black wanted it to be ECW on steroids. He said it was more like a reject ECW. So let's go into the Messiah story.
Oh, God.
Why don't you walk us through the Messiah story here, the Messiah adventure?
All right. Um, so I did not know this when watching XPW back in the day, because it was really hard to follow at times because they didn't really have like a real television show, I guess, if that makes any sense. They had a show, but it wasn't episodic. Let's put it that way. I don't know. But so they were in Rob Black's faction or something like that. And the Messiah would always come to the ring with Lizzie Borden. And it was always weird because I was like, wait a minute, isn't she Rob Black's wife? So that was kind of weird. Now I see why. Apparently, he wanted them to flirt, but he didn't want them to have sex unless it wasn't on camera. Or
Unless it was on camera.
I don't know what I just said.
Yeah.
Okay, so I
If
don't know
it
why.
if well, they have the clip in here where she's asking him who she can do a scene with, and he's like nobody.
Yeah,
So
exactly. Anyways, so okay, so what ends up happening? They end up flirting, and guess what? When people flirt, they have sex. Well, that's what happened. They got together. They ended up getting together and whatnot, and that should have spelled like the Messiah when he did that should have got out immediately. He should have just left. He wasn't under contract or anything like that. There wasn't anything that could have held him. And I'm pretty sure he knows that by now. But that's neither here nor there. But anyways, so apparently they get caught. It gets out, obviously, because it's in a wrestling locker room. You're not going to be able to keep that, hidden. And it's the boss's wife, so you're just not going to be able to keep that hidden.
when you're
So
fucking the boss's wife, that's like sign number one. You should get the fuck out of there.
yeah, exactly. But that's not what happened. And this is where I wish I did not know information. I mean, I get that it needs to be known, but I really wish that I had never found this out, but I did. And apparently Messiah is sitting in his home and his door is wide open for whatever reason. Two guys enter. He thinks that they are part of his roommate's friends or something like that. I don't know. He just didn't think anything was wrong. But then apparently these two guys jump him. And I'm thinking, oh shit. And then he said that they grabbed pliers or I forget exactly what he said, but I'm pretty sure it was pliers. And cut his thumb off. Like immediately cut his thumb. When I saw that, I was just like, no, no, this is not. I was
Yeah.
just, I was like, oh my God. Like,
Yeah.
dude, we've seen some dark episodes of Dark Side of the Ring. Obviously, the darkest being Chris Benoit or Owen Hart or one of those. I've never seen any of these episodes get this deep.
Yeah, I mean, this was crazy. I mean, they were going to cut them both off.
They were.
Who knows what would have happened if he had not fought them off. And, what really, Messiah kind of comes across as kind of like this kind of arrogant, kind of prick type person also. But, he definitely wasn't on the level that Rob Black was, where Rob Black just seems like a complete fucking psychopath. Um, and a very childish person. But like this is just crazy. Rob Black clearly, I mean, allegedly paid these guys to come and do this. To the guy that he called Mr. XPW, the guy tried to leave. Rob coerced him into staying. And of course,
And
it's
actually, he left before this.
yeah, it's completely within your right to be pissed off if somebody, fucks your wife or whatever. But, uh, it was already rumored. It was already all over the dirt sheets. Messiah finally admits it at a different indie show. And this is where he gets the phone call from Rob Black saying that he has 3 days to leave California.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, he legit threatened him and
Yeah.
stuff like that.
And it sounds like he went through on it. I mean, and unfortunately, he wasn't able to get to a hospital with the thumb in time. So, I mean, he's still without it today. They weren't able to recover it.
Yeah. And I mean, he blacked out obviously from loss of blood and stuff like that. It just, like I said, dude, like, look, I knew XPW was a shitty promotion and I knew Rob Black was a piece of shit. I can't even call him a piece of shit now. Okay. There's no words to describe him after this.
Yeah.
Like, dude, Vince McMahon is a saint compared to this guy.
Yeah.
That's saying something. All right. People can say what they want to about Vince McMahon. At least he's never sent anyone to kill him.
That's true. I mean, we can argue about Owen Hart all day, but yeah, I mean,
obviously, I mean,
but yeah, I mean, yeah, he never hired anybody to come beat the shit out of anyone that we know of.
Yeah.
We are going to do our top 10 sins of Vince McMahon episode soon. So if anybody knows of that happening, please write into us.
Yeah, well, like I said, he's a saint compared to Rob Black.
Did Vince McMahon send people to break into your house? You may be entitled to compensation.
But here's the thing: when you do something like this, how do you think this is not going to make the news?
Not only does it make the news, but this is all happening before Rob decides. I guess he's like, oh, well, I got away with this, so now I'm going to challenge the federal government on television. Because it wasn't just the wrestling that he was taking to extreme levels. It was the porn, too. I mean, he was doing stuff that's like not only illegal, but sick.
Yeah, he would do rape porn. He would do like very sadistic bondage porn or anything like that. Like he was just known for that, and it is disturbing.
And I'm not here to kink shame anybody. You're into whatever you're into, but
Yeah.
like they were talking about, like he would have like very young looking actresses pretend to be younger than they were in the videos, and like when you're doing that stuff, that's across the fucking line.
Yeah, it's dude.
Yeah.
Hey, let's be honest. I'm pretty sure there were underage girls.
Man, I really hope not, but I mean, at this point in time, though, I mean, how could you put anything past the guy? You know what I mean?
Yeah, he tried to have one of his wrestlers killed.
Right. So, this happens. Mike Hartsfield talks about how Rob told him when the feds raid us. Not if, but when, knowing that they were going to raid them, and they did. And of course, if they couldn't make the porn, which was paying all the bills, then they couldn't make the wrestling, and they couldn't pay the wrestlers. And as has become very famous in the, you know, rise and fall of whatever wrestling company story, the wrestlers weren't getting paid. Some of them went
Uh-huh.
months without a paycheck,
Yeah.
which is just crazy. So yeah, I mean, what do you even do at this point in time if you're one of these people that's been brainwashed into joining Rob's cult? I mean, this is around the same time where they all think that he was involved in this hit on Messiah.
Yeah, I mean, and two, but they don't know for sure, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And two, they're like, but I still like wrestling and I still want to wrestle. And this is the only place it seems like I can wrestle right now. So what am I going to do?
Yeah, Sylvia Munoz, who of course got married to Joey Munoz, so it's chaos. So they had a happy ending out of this at least.
I, I must say, I am very familiar with her work.
Oh, geez. Um,
That's all I'll say. As Jezebel Romo.
all right. Well, you heard it here, folks.
Shut up.
I'm sure that you just were researching her for science for this episode, just for
Yes.
purely scientific purposes.
Yes, exactly. That's exactly right.
Yeah, yeah. I'm a bit of a scientist myself. So, yeah. I mean,
Well, like XPW, this is going off the tracks.
right, of course. Yeah. So, yeah. So the feds come down on them. They can't make the wrestling product anymore. Um, they're talking about, uh, Jessica says, we all know who did it in regards to the Messiah episode. Sylvia leaves shortly after the Messiah incident because that was kind of the last straw for a lot of the talent. That, hey, if you try to leave here, Rob's going to fucking come after you.
Yeah.
Um, and I gotta just note this before we wrap it up too. Like the way that they wrote Messiah out was fucking hilarious in a that was just horrible. What did I just watch? Way
Oh yeah, it was it was awful.
where he ascended to heaven during one of the episodes.
I
So at the end of all this, we have Vic Grimes horrifically injured, Luke Hawks horrifically injured. We have Messiah without a thumb for the rest of his life. Um, we have several people having not been paid and going without paychecks. There's no telling what kind of people, what kind of damage the rest of the roster had done to their bodies. I mean, Sabu that was kind of his thing anyway. But,
yeah.
um, you know, what's kind of your final thoughts on this episode and on XPW?
Oh man, dude. I mean, like I said, I knew this promotion was bad. All right. When I saw it back in the day, I was like, this stuff is terrible. There was some stuff that was okay, I guess, at best, but just a lot of it was terrible. Um, I did not really know that it was mostly porn, though. I will say that. I don't know why. Like back in the day when I first started watching it that just didn't come across to me or something like that. But then, after hearing about it, I was like, oh, okay, well then that makes sense. But just, dude, this is a horrible promotion with people who did not know what they were doing, and the people that did know what they were doing were not allowed to do what they were doing. So there's that. It's a deathmatch wrestling, which already that amplifies the danger level to a million, along with people who don't know what they're doing. And then two, if you are a promoter like Rob Black and you feel the need to treat talent like that over something that is supposed to be for entertainment for the audience. It is not supposed to be real like that. You are not supposed to try to hurt each other or kill each other. You violate the sanctity of pro wrestling. You violate the unspoken code in wrestling, which is, hey, we both want to go home at the end of the day. We have families. We want to go home. We have lives outside of this. We just want to make it to the next show and stuff like that and have a good time wrestling. But when you violate that, you deserve to have the shit beat out of you in the ring in front of everybody with the whole entire roster doing it to you. And then you deserve to be thrown the fuck out and banned for life. And thank God he is. Because if he ever tries to start a promotion, I will go to his promotion just so I could beat the shit out of him.
I think there would be a line. I think you summed it up pretty well, man. I mean, I agree with you at every level. I mean, like I said, if you're a booker or a promoter, making sure your talent have a safe place to work and that they leave that building in the same condition they show up in, that's your number one job. If you're not putting that priority first, and it seems like Rob Black not only wasn't putting it first, but didn't give a shit at all, and was very adamant about just sacrificing the bodies of his workers for his own personal gain. I'm very glad that XPW is closed, and that he's not in the wrestling industry anymore. I mean, that's about all I can say about it. So that wraps this one up, man. That being said, check out all of our coverage of Dark Side of the Ring Season 3. We only have 2 episodes left to do. We'll have the Luna Vachon episode coming out soon, and then hopefully next week, man, we'll get to the steroid trial. It just came out last night. We're recording this early on a Friday morning, so as soon as we can, we're going to get that one out. I'm really excited about that. And then we have a bunch of cool stuff coming up. Dark Side of the Ring is going to be over, so we get to kind of go back to picking our own topics.
Yes, and I got to pick something, again, that gets my mind off of some of this shit. Because like I said, this one triggered some just anger in me. Like, I can't stand it when I see that kind of stuff. Because that's the stuff when it's like, I, as a wrestling fan, explain that to a non-wrestling fan, and I'm just like, I can't. There is no explanation for that. Like, you cannot rationalize it. You can't explain it. You just like it's just, you just have to be like, look, that's what happened. And thank God there are people that are trying to eliminate that from wrestling.
Yeah, and in just a few weeks too, it's bears to mention that we are going to be reviewing AEW Full Gear, because we're going to cover all the big AEW pay-per-views. So we got Full Gear coming up on November 13th. So that's going to keep us pretty busy for the next couple of weeks. We'll have the steroid trials, we'll have Full Gear, and then of course we have our top 10 sins of Vince McMahon. But hey, we might have to do something cool before then. Maybe we revisit the Angle podcast. Maybe we have a couple of our top 5 and top 10 lists we want to do still. Or maybe we'll just pick a random pay-per-view we like and talk about it. So we're going to have a ton of stuff coming up, folks. Caleb, thanks for joining me on here each and every week. I was definitely glad to have you back. And of course, as you guys already know, this has been an Evolved Review.